My name is Waylon Myers, and Standing Strong with Waylon Myers allows the guests to feel comfortable and safe on this platform to talk about life's challenging struggles such as bullying, depression, anxiety, crimes, hate, and more. We all deal with these situations every day, and it's important to talk about these things and help spread awareness to save people's lives. You are important, and your life is very important. I have interviewed numerous of the Dhar Mann Actors, fitness experts, family, and friends, alongside my co-host Tyler Peters. Please be inspired by this show and know everything is perfectly fine just the way you are. We stand strong together. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Standing Strong with Waylon Myers. This is the 46th episode. Joining me right now is my co-host, Tyler Peters. What's up, Tyler? And it's great to have you back this week.
Well, Waylon, it's good to be back. You all did an amazing job last week in my absence, and credit to you guys. And it's just so good to be back with you, my friend. And I'm happy to join you for another, I think it's going to be an amazing episode.
Thanks, me too. Do you have an inspirational quote that you would like to share today?
I actually don't have an inspirational quote, but I can give you some inspiration. It's just, hey, remember to be kind to one another. And let's spread that message of positivity like you're talking about, Waylon. I think that can be a quote into itself.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, there will be changes coming soon. So please stay tuned for that. And Tyler, next week is Halloween. Isn't
I
it
know.
crazy?
It is. I mean, I can't wait. I'm like you, Waylon. It's one of my favorite holidays. It's a very spooky season, so I can't wait. I'm not really going to dress up, but I'm going to wear that Michael Myers shirt that you see in the graphic. So, hey, it's still going to be celebrating.
Awesome. Awesome. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get on to the guest. I am going to play the introduction video of Seth Brubaker. Seth Brubaker is originally from Vero Beach, Florida. He's an author of the John Connors Making Peace with Mania. He is an amazing actor who is best known for Dhar Mann YouTube series and VetTv series Recruiters, Mission First. He is a father of two boys and lives in Los Angeles, California. He enjoys naps, ice baths, metta, spicy peppers, cooking, and acting. So you see, Seth Brubaker is an inspirational man. And now, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please welcome my 46th guest, Seth Brubaker. What is up, Seth? Welcome to Standing Strong.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. That was quite an introduction. I feel like I should have drum roll or dancing showgirls.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, at this time, just in case anyone is wondering, where can they find you on social media?
I am on Instagram and Facebook as Rebel Giant Productions, and those are my two primary platforms for social media. Yeah, and the book is on both Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
All right. So everyone, if you want to get connected to him, feel free to do so. All right, Seth. I want to start this off by asking you about bullying. Have you experienced bullying in your life? And what were some ways you didn't let it affect you?
Gotcha. Yes, of course. Bullying has definitely been part of my life. Different early experiences with people, and and I'm sad to say, and looking back, once you've been bullied, sometimes you become the more aggressive bullier. So I think we end up living long enough. We probably wear both of those things, and it's very it's a very heavy, thing to get bullied, and it's a very heavy thing for people to act out the way they do as bullies. And I think it all comes from trauma. Personally, I think that everybody's got a story, and the way that they act is usually out of fear or anxiety or pain. So when they're acting out badly, that's usually how I see them. If I see somebody and they're being rude, or they're being short, or they're bullying in some sort of way. I mean, there's no excuse for it, but I just think to myself, this person probably is in some sort of pain, some sort of fear, something happened to them, some sort of trauma. So I try to, just send them a little positive energy, and make my way, somewhere else. I always say your time and your energy are your most valuable commodities. Don't spend them too easily.
Right. Couldn't agree more with what you just said. Tyler, do you have anything you would like to add to that?
I'm just going to add that I agree. I think it's important to stand up against bullying, and it's true. It's our insecurities that sometimes make us aggressive. So, to that point, it's just a great learning experience to be on here with you, Waylon, and with you, Mr. Brubaker. It's this will be just a great interview.
Thanks,
Tyler.
Tyler. Yeah.
Oh, you're
Now,
welcome.
Fabulous radio voice. I love it, Tyler.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I'm going on an adventure with you.
yeah.
I appreciate
Now,
that.
now, cyberbullying plays a huge factor these days. How do you deal with hate messages?
Well, I tell you, Waylon, I got a very simple creed or cliche that I stick to, and I say, I cannot be insulted by anyone I don't admire.
Mm-hmm.
And that really narrows it down. So, I mean, if some troll who doesn't know me is lashing out and processing his insecurities or her insecurities by trying to take me down, it doesn't say anything about me. It doesn't say anything about my work. It definitely is more illustrative of that person. So, I mean, I can't take anything seriously if I don't know the person. And sometimes if I do know the people and I know that they're just kidding with me. I mean, in my business, I've surrounded constantly by people who like to, have fun and joke at other people. Sometimes that's how your friends are, right? Like that's the old saying. You've got a true friend when he talks smack to your face and then defends you behind your back, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a total opposite of what usually happens if they're false friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Absolutely. Now, people suffer from depression and anxiety. What are ways you overcome it, and what advice do you send out to people?
I tell you, this one's very, very near and dear to my heart, Waylon. My book is about mental imbalance
Uh-huh.
and my personal experiences with mania in my 20s and bipolar 1. And during the process of writing this book, some things kind of clicked for me, and it made me see it in a whole new way. And I feel like all of mental imbalance comes from the same source. And I feel like that is suppressed emotional energy. So there's some sort of traumatic experience. We don't know how to process it in real time, so we suppress that, and the way it ends up manifesting is either addiction or depression or bipolar or schizophrenia. There's a myriad of overworking, all of these things, even the complexities of PTSD. That's really the same function, that you're experiencing trauma and you're not able to process it in a healthy way or in a real-time way. So there's a bit of compartmentalization that goes on. And as you suppress things, oftentimes you self-medicate to try to alleviate that anxiety and fear of that facing, that traumatic experience. And that creates its own sort of gravitas and weight. That was definitely my experience. And so depression and anxiety are very, very close to me. And I tell you, over the course of the years of dealing with what my diagnosis was and learning more about, what were the things that fueled, the kindling, they call it in psychology, psychiatry, of, those events, then it kind of led me down a path of what it is I need to do for self-care. And for me, self-care is, getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise. I love, and I can't stress this enough, ice bath. My son and I just did one earlier today. Ice bath. There's this amazing guy named Wim Hof, the Iceman. He's from Holland, and they've been studying him for years. But it has a physiological and a psychological effect of being a catalyst, where you're doing something that all your instincts tell you, your survival instincts tell you to stop doing. Get out of the ice bath. And if you're powerful enough intention to stay and go through that for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is that you're able to handle it, it actually makes your neural pathways more flexible, where you are having this conversation with your autonomic and parasympathetic nervous system, where you're kind of letting it know that you're in charge. And that catalyst really does spread out far and wide. I mean, it's one that people are using for a lot for depression and anxiety. So that's definitely part of my regimen is the ice bath. But and being brutally honest, I've done a lot of therapy, and nothing good ever happens from trying to lie to yourself or other people about the way you're feeling. We are on this emotional journey. I personally think that's why we're here. Having this three-dimensional linear experience is to have emotional experiences, and not all of them are going to be, rainbows and waterfalls. They're experiences that color the rest of, how you relate to the world, so that you will appreciate when you do have an amazing day, or when you do have an amazing relationship, or you do have, the ability to take something that you're really serious about, make it a goal, and push until you get that goal. These things, I like to say, they are, it's an example of commensurate causality, whereby each and every step, whether it's your gym body or your bank account, each of those steps, was a little win. And it took motivation, and it took morale to get that step, and you just constantly step towards it, right? Like that's definitely the same sort of function.
Awesome. I love what you showed and said. Tyler?
Yeah, I love how you related everything. I didn't look at it from that perspective. So to Waylon's point, thank you so much. It was awesome how you explained that.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I feel like I'm going to be a student of life every waking second of my life, and that's really why I wrote the book, was to hope that people with different mental imbalances will feel seen, and
Mhm.
that's what so many people want. We want to feel as if, we're not the only ones experiencing, situations, and it helps us when we have a community and people who are reaching out and trying to raise awareness and let people know that they're not alone. That happens in, all these different amazing supportive communities, whether you're talking about bullying or depression or, bipolar or, you name it. There is, I did a lot of work with VetTv, and that is kind of how they came to be, is people who are either active military or former military trying to, reflect on their experience and laugh about it in a way that's, therapeutic and productive, as opposed, as I'm sure you're aware, there's a epidemic of suicide in former militaries. I mean, something like 5 times more people have died from suicide than in combat. I mean, it's a huge issue. So
Yeah, it's very sad. So that's commendable, sir. And I know Waylon will agree to help out our vets and anyone that's dealing with those kind of illnesses. That is a sad number. So I'm glad to see people like you. And I need to do better personally, help those who are in need.
Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption. My internet just shut off and came back on. So if you guys had any glitch, I apologize for that.
can we start over from the beginning? We're just
Nope, you're fine. You're fine. Now, now Wi-Fi these days, right? Now, self-worth is something people don't want to build because they feel like they are worthless. What advice would you get to let someone know they are worthy in life?
Oh man, that's a great question. So many images come to us all the time, whether it's from advertising or social media. And if people just realize that there is no perfect, if the concept of having, perfect looks or a perfect life, it's really an illusion. I mean, all the people that you see, on these billboards or these famous movie stars, or you see these influencers, and they're showing these incredible experiences that they're having in these fancy places with fancy cars and fancy watches and all this stuff. It's all really just a play. It's
Mhm.
all really something that people have put on display to try to show off in a egoic sort of way. And sometimes it's specifically to sell you something. Sometimes it's specifically for the individual to promote their own kind of brand. But if people just realize that this is make believe, this is
Mhm.
this is not this is not 24/7. This is not some sort of realistic thing. I mean, I relate it back to the Disney princess paradigm. I mean, if you're an impressionable little girl and you really believe that someday you are going to become a princess, and everybody's going to do what you say, and you're going to have true love the first time out, and everything's going to be beautiful, and there's going to be songs being sung. Well, that's just an unrealistic expectation, right? And so many people
Mhm.
get kind of locked into that, or they make unrealistic goals at an early age, and then they feel almost beholden to those goals, even
Mhm.
as we grow. I mean, who were you 5 years ago? Who were you 10 years ago? You were not the same human being. I mean, even on a cellular level, you have changed. Every cell in your body changes every 7 years, except for the deep parts of your eye and the parts of your heart, which is interesting too. But uh, and the idea that you can be affected by somebody else's version, and it could be a whole team that puts their resources together to try to produce this image that is going to somehow make you feel bad that you aren't there, it's just silly. So self-worth comes from finding out what it is that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Is it spending time with your loved ones? Is it trying different facets of expression? In my world of of creatives, people are writers, people are artists, people are singers and dancers, and all that started because they tried it.
Mhm.
They weren't amazing first time. They weren't the most amazing award-winning actor, and that's kind of a subjective thing too, right? When you say, who's the best artist? I mean, that's impossible to say. You can go to a museum and you can be moved by a piece of art, whether it's Dali or Degas. They're both amazing artists in their own right. It has nothing to do with like a competition. So
Mhm.
sometimes we feel like it's a zero-sum game.
Sure.
This person only wins, and that's ridiculous. Everybody wins.
Right.
Everybody's on their own trip.
Yep, absolutely. I love that answer. Well said. Now, Seth, I am jumping on to the topic of hardships because we all go through them. What were some hardship you dealt with in your life, and how did you manage to pass by it?
Gosh. Well, I'm definitely the one to answer this for myself. I like I said, I wrote the book that I published about my experiences with mania, and I don't know how much you know about bipolar or manic depressive episodes, but I absolutely I describe it as I ran out of space to suppress any more emotional energy, and at 24 I had a manic episode, and that's how it felt. So I literally lost touch with reality, and that was an extraordinary amount of hardship, and it ended up with me going to jail. It ended up with me going to they really didn't have anything else they could put me in. They put me into a drug rehab because they really didn't have any kind of function for mental disorders. And so I went through that process. Then I went through 3 years of probation. um, uh, Hardships make you stronger if you let them.
Mhm.
Steel sharpens steel. If you have an experience, it's almost like a microcosm of the ice bath, right? If you have an experience where you are able to overcome this thing, then you now are hardened by it. You are now strengthened by your experience there. So if you going through hardship, allow that experience to affect you and change you. It may be that whatever you want to call it, destiny or the universe or higher power, put that thing there to get you off of the path you were on.
Mhm.
Russell Brand, who I think is absolutely fantastic and has some amazing stories, especially about addiction and mental breakdowns. He has a great way of putting it. He says people who have mental breakdowns and also people who get full blown addicted to drugs, they have a bit of an advantage, and the advantage is if they live through it, they realize to their core that their foundational way of looking at things was broken. So they have
Mhm.
to rebuild it in a different way. Whereas if you were going through life and you had some emotional baggage and you just drank a little bit too much, a little bit more, a little bit, you ate a little bit more, a little bit more, you worked way too hard. He goes, it might take you 30 or 40 or 50 years before you realize that you've got stuff you need to deal with. He goes, and then what do you got? You've led a muted life this whole time, and now it's so far down the road. Whereas if you go through these hardships, great, grab them, embrace them, examine them, have the wherewithal to get in there and there's always a way of finding the silver lining. There's always
Mhm.
a way of figuring out how it is that an experience can make you stronger.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Now, Seth, how do you stand strong, and what tips would you give other people to also stand strong?
Excellent, excellent question.
Thanks.
I would say number one, be honest. Be
Mhm.
completely honest with yourself. If you feel overwhelmed, if you feel unchallenged, be honest with what it is that moves you. And when you find something that really does move you, whether it's a job or a hobby, or living in a different place, or a group of people that you like, do everything in your power to be part of that,
Yeah.
to explore that part of you. Being standing strong is so subjective and individual. Each and every person is completely unique. You are an individual snowflake, and nobody else can relate to you exactly. You might have grown up with some siblings, but they didn't have the exact same you know experience that you did. You have your combination of genes is completely unique. So you really do have to figure it out for yourself, and then be open to change. I mean, change is inevitable. It is the only constant in the universe, and people are very resistant to change.
Yeah.
Even in the scientific community, that it's which is built on the scientific method, which is like, hey, if we find something new, that's the new law. And even when somebody finds something new, people fight them, because
Yeah.
their whole belief system is predicated on this one thing that they've been swearing to for their whole lives. And just being open to change, being um, honest with both yourself and other people, it adds to how people view you. And ultimately you'll figure out a way to be kind to people, because when it comes down to it, we're all an extension of the same thing. What I do to myself, what I do to somebody out on the freeway, if they're not driving the way, how mad can I get at an extension of myself? If you really think about it, us all being the same,
Yeah.
that helps. That would that would help with not unloading a bunch of stuff on them.
It
Right.
would.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. Now, Seth, who has impacted your life that let you know that this is truly who you are?
Wow, great question. Who has impacted my life? Gosh, so many. Man, you're tough one. I, I I look up to great artists who have had an impact on me. Stanley Kubrick is one of my biggest influences. I Sean Penn, I think, has just had an amazing record of, you know, creative endeavors and also philanthropic endeavors, and people who just comport themselves with a mixture of humility and free spiritedness, and they can allow themselves to evolve over the years. So those are two of my biggest influences with regards to the arts. But geez, uh, Wayne Dyer is a huge influence on me. I love the Tao Te Ching. I'm a big fan of reading a little passage of that every once in a while. It keeps me humble.
Yeah.
I could go on and on.
Well, excellent answer to this question. Now, speaking of the next question, is going to take you to what you do now in life.
Mhm.
How does it feel to act for Dhar Mann and working with the amazing, talented crew he has.
Oh man, it's so it's such a wonderful culture that Dhar Mann has created in his ever expanding universe of studios and creatives that are contributing, and it's for such a great cause.
Mhm.
All of the messages, I liken the Dhar Mann material almost to like Greek myths. There are these allegories and stories of one person's sort of arc and journey to figure out that there's a better way of doing things, and it's not necessarily like you want to look at it for realism and specifics and check it against some sort of matrix of believability, but the messages are all there. I mean, it really is a fantastic worldwide community of people that are honestly trying to do something to change people's lives in the positive, and I just commend them for that. And obviously, there's such a need and a market for those kind of messages, especially younger people. I mean, I don't know what the target demographic is, but they keep it very G-rated, and those messages. They, I mean, what are we talking? Like 40 billion views? I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
it's a
Yeah, a
stunning
lot.
number. It's a stunning number. Hey, Brent, did you ever hear the difference between 1 million and 1 billion in seconds?
Uh-uh.
No.
Okay, so there's 1 million seconds in a little over 12 days, and there's 1 billion seconds in a little over 33 years.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you're keeping track, 33,000 years is 1 trillion seconds.
Wow.
I mean, you could just ask Siri that too. But
Yeah. So
I was,
speaking of Dhar Mann and how you act with him, you have played a lot of the police officer in
yes, sir.
most of his films.
Mhm.
One of my favorite one was when your daughter stole a dress and she wanted a free ride, but you said she's going down to the
Right,
jail and
right,
she's
right.
gonna learn her punishment. What was that episode like for you to do?
Oh man, it's great as a father. It's touched my heart, for sure, because tough love is hard.
Hmm.
It's hard to be the guy who looks into the eyes of your child and has to be the disciplinarian. But it is absolutely 100% necessary that people understand that they have a responsibility for their actions.
Hmm.
I mean, and it creates character and it makes for better decisions if you know that you're going to be responsible for them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that's a great episode, and and I think it's very much universal too. I mean, if you take that concept, if you just get away with everything, what's your motivation?
Right.
What's your motivation for um, uh, uh, following the rules? That it becomes a slippery slope. And as the girl, she just kept it up and she kept pushing it, and somebody somewhere along the line is going to have to throw the book at you, so you learn. Like, one of my heroes, Robert Downey Jr., he had to learn the hard way that his actions had real life consequences, and you know what, he came out of that, and he's been better as a human. Just we all have to learn that at some point. you
Yeah.
know it was a
Yeah,
good
we do.
it was a
Yeah.
good
It was. And at the end, you was like, she did change. And then you got a knock at the door by the other officer. I just followed this car home because it was speeding. And then you're, yep, that's my daughter.
Yeah, baby steps,
Yep.
right?
All right, Seth. Now I am going to send it off to Tyler Peters for his questions. he has for you.
Got it. Thanks, Waylon.
Yep.
Yes, sir. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, I know you're a writer. When did your interest in that begin, that you wanted to write?
Cool. Yes. Well, I had been very good at starting things, over the course of my life, where I was like, ooh, inspiration. And I think of a story, and I get about, maybe a paragraph or a page into it. But the discipline part of writing is the hardest part. And taking that bolt of inspiration, and I liken it to pushing a boulder uphill. It is just this incredible amount of discipline that it takes, especially when you're starting out and you don't know how much work it is of pushing up. So I started in earnest writing when I happened to meet up with an old friend of mine from my theater company in New York, and she had become a writer. She had had a few novels published, and we wanted to get together and write something for me to be in, because I was having this experience of constantly going out for the same things, the same kind of roles. The lack of hair, would kind of necessitate a certain kind of a specific role. So we wanted to get together and write some things for me, like short. And we ended up working on, a couple of different things, and then working on a series. And so that kind of really paved the way for me to realize that as an actor, I observe people, and that observational skill is the same thing that you need to be as a writer. And if you really love language, you get to practice taking that bolt of inspiration about characters and becoming their mouthpiece, and
Right.
and it really, I think, gives you a bit of a filter how you observe other books, how you observe other movies and series. Like you really pay a lot of attention to how those things are put together. Like I call it making the sausage, right? Like it's, you're whether you're making a film or a feature, how these things are all going to come together. So it's incredibly challenging, and it does take a lot of work, but it's very it's just so gratifying, if you can you make a story and you can it's done. Okay.
Sure. I mean, that's a great answer, and kind of led to the other question too. I was going to ask what's the education process like for acting? And you kind of tied that in there to that answer. So I'll go to the next one.
Okay.
Any favorite hobbies? I mean, outside of acting, that
Oh man,
that you're very interested in?
Yes, geez. Well, I've always been a huge fan, and I play two-man beach volleyball. I always want to live close enough to the beach where I can make that happen. I've been playing with a group of guys for years, and grew up playing down in Florida. I absolutely love. I was talking about the ice bath. That's huge. I was doing Spartan races for the longest time. I love those obstacle course races. Those are so fun. There's a great way to keep yourself motivated for if you have one coming up. It's like it gives you something tangible to train for, not just like a number on a scale or whatever, but it's a very cool application of fitness, where it's not just cardio, it's not just strength, it's just this incredibly applicable combination of all those things together. And I just love those. I love traveling. I like just going to museums. Art of all manners really does speak to me. I feel like people who are creative, I feel like they're kind of naturally empathic, and when I'm around, art, it feels like not only is the intention of the artist, kind of moving something in me. It's also the energy of all the people who have stood in that same spot and been affected by the art. And you can get the same feeling in churches and, different architecture, and, it goes on and on. I think that's part of why music, affects us also collectively, you're being moved by something, and part of us somewhere in our register of more than our five senses picks up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about that connection. That was a wonderful response. And another thing too, kind of going to some of the great questions Waylon asked. I mean, in your opinion, how can we as a society improve? What are some of the changes you would like to see?
Wow, that's a great question. Man, I think our society is really a reflection. The success of our society is reflected in how it is that we take care of our most vulnerable people. If there's people who are approaching trillionaire status, and I think that if we are to reach out to people who need help, but whether it's a physical help or mental help and support, help with their addictions, things of this nature, where they found themselves disadvantaged, having the ability to get help to those people is definitely something that I would love to see improved. And I'd love to see an emphasis put on mental health, um, having it be less of a stigma. I think that we're heading in that direction. It used to be a lot more shameful and difficult for people even to discuss their mental imbalances, whether it was addiction or depression, bipolar. Being called crazy was kind of a scarlet letter, for a very long
True.
time. It's one of those facets of societies, like people who are people who identify as being gay or transgender. I mean, this is something in my lifetime it's changed so much. And I think it's all because of exposure, right? Like, people realize that, these people aren't different from us in any noticeable way. So there's somebody who's gone through some stuff and has suffered with
Right.
depression, or suffered with addiction, and just opening people's hearts to the idea that we are all in this together.
I love that.
Yeah, wonderfully said.
Right.
Another wonderful response. The next question would be: is there one genre concerning acting that you prefer, or do you like it all? As far as
Man,
acting.
I do like everything. I'm not a huge fan of musicals. I think that it's purely a subjective choice. But man, I love comedy. I just started writing some stand-up comedy material for the first time in about 28 years. I used to do stand-up comedy a little bit in New York, but I love it. But the drama is what I get picked for more than anything else, and I go out for more than anything else, and it moves me. Comedies can move me, but there's something about people having to get through difficult situations that aligns with where I am. And so I'm open to everything. Are you casting, Tyler? Because I'm down.
I mean, yeah, I
Or I
can.
can be
Yeah.
shorter.
Yeah, I think, and comedy is, and to Waylon's point, we love that too.
Mhm.
And when you said New York, I thought of all the great comedies like Seinfeld, and I'm a big King of Queens fan,
Nice,
and all
nice.
those. Everybody Loves Raymond, which are based, largely in New York. So all those are funny. I love how Seinfeld's. It's really about nothing, but they make it so comedic. And to your point,
Yes.
so that's very fascinating to learn that comedy is one of those favorite genres. And another one, going back to writing, because I'm so interested by your writing background. Do you have a favorite author by chance that inspired you?
Good question.
you're killing me. So many. Man, I have been wildly influenced. If I had to pick a favorite author, it would have to be Charles Bukowski. He just had this incredible way of describing the human condition, and it was just such a poet and such a brilliant illustrative mind. But man, I've got so many favorites, and you find that they, you just go in phases where you're reading a lot of things that are true life, and you read a lot of things that are, I mean, Stephen King is also one of my favorite authors.
Oh, he is great. I'm glad you answered that, because yeah, Stephen King is a master.
Dean Arcoots. I love all those stuff where it's, but Anthony Burgess wrote A Clockwork Orange, and he is one of my all-time, favorite authors, and of course his collaboration with Stanley Kubrick is very near and dear to me. I don't know if I've ever shared with you my back tattoo, but it's all Clockwork Orange.
Wow, now that's dedication there. If you got a tattoo, which we appreciate that. And just another question too: what lesson has your profession taught you that everyone should learn in life?
Wow, that's great. My profession has taught me that if you are serious about something, if you absolutely want something bad enough, and you are willing to keep trying, that it's a possibility for you. Not going to be easy, show business. That's the golden rule is, if you can do something else, do it, because it is an unforgiving, full of rejection, sort of uncaring. It's not a meritocracy. It is completely whimsical and subjective. I mean, but I just couldn't do anything else. There's no way I would ever be happy. And there's been times where I was like, okay, that's enough. I can't do it. I'm too old now, whatever. So that has taught me that if you are mentally prepared to go through anything, if your morale is that high, that you don't mind the rejection, you don't mind having to work menial jobs to support this habit that you have of wanting to be in this thing. If you can apply that to anything in life, you're going to be okay. There's a lot of people that are leading the quote unquote perfect life, making the perfect amount of money with the perfect family, and they're sitting there contemplating suicide right now because they don't feel connected to any of it. So if you're able to find something that you're connected to on an emotional level, by all means, go after it hard.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice, by the way, all these answers and everything. So thank you. And one last question. Speaking of holidays, me and Waylon, we're talking Halloween. Do you have a favorite holiday?
Oh,
by
man.
Chance?
Mine's Christmas.
I love Halloween.
I do too. I mean, I like them all, but Halloween's up there for me.
Halloween.
Uh-huh.
It's so brilliant. I mean, my kids are older now too, and they don't dress up anymore. But we in LA, there's all of these amazing haunted houses that you could go to if you wanted to go to Universal and Queen Mary, and all these brilliant haunted houses. And I love that. I love the thing of people dressing up, and as a student of life, I kind of like reverse engineer it and try to think of like, well, what's their motivation for dressing up like this? Like what is it? What part of themselves are they trying to live vicariously by, experiencing what this is? And what does this say about that? Because so much of what we, see in the arts, that's what it is. People are living vicariously through characters that are having experiences that we either want to have or are curious about having, right? So I
Mhm.
feel like, Halloween is one of those times where people let loose and they let their their inner selves shine for a little bit. But yeah, I guess Halloween's my favorite.
Yeah, they do, and I'll throw it back to you, Waylon. Thank you so much, sir. I
Oh
enjoyed
man,
this interview.
anytime, Tyler. Really appreciate talking to you, man. Thanks for having me.
Now,
Oh,
Seth,
you're very welcome.
Is there anything that you would like to say to the viewers that you would like to share, like future projects or anything to let them know that they are worth it, to continue living, never give up? Do you have anything you would like to share to them?
Absolutely. Well, I'll give a shout out. This is my my buddies over at BioNox Motivating Wellness. I take a wonderful supplement of nitric oxide that's helped me lose weight and helped me to maintain my fitness goals and energy. So I'm very thankful to them. Gosh, I've got a few projects coming up. But whether or not those ever see the light of day or they just become part of pitch
Yeah.
notes, but just be kind to each other. If I could have any sort of platform, I would just say be kind to each other, be honest with yourselves, and try to live your best life, and try ice bath. It'll change everything, man. It's huge.
Yeah. Now, Seth, I want to say thank you for your
Oh,
time.
my
And
pleasure.
I hope my show gave you the courage and platform to feel comfortable and well on my show. What was your experience like talking and opening up with me and Tyler?
Oh, I feel like this was like a therapy session. I feel like taller and younger now. This is great. No, I love talking to younger people and getting insights from your experiences and sharing my own. So, man, I'm just happy to be here. And you guys run a very well organized. You had a wonderful question. So I couldn't be happier, man. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. One last time, can you share your social media just in case if someone missed it?
Sure. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as all one word, Rebel Giant Productions.
All right, everyone, you heard that. If you would like to get connected with Seth, do so, and I'm sure he will appreciate it. Seth,
With you guys.
thank you for being the 46 guest on this show.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you.
Keep being an amazing person, and everyone enjoy this ending video.
You have just watched Standing Strong with Waylon Myers. Please spread the word to your friends and family so that they can be inspired, as I want to change the world by bringing more kindness and courage back into it alongside my co-host Tyler Peters. We give our guests a safe platform to feel comfortable talking about these life-challenging struggles. Hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring the bell so that you get notified for the next time we go live. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time.
God bless each and every one of you.